just like a stand.
Dream on. Quick service announcement brought to you in part by Warriors.
Damn, that shit was dope.
And welcome back to another Warrior Creed live stream with me, the radical Majid Nawaz, broadcasting an urgent session off the back of the sacking of Lord Mandelson, who was the British ambassador to Washington, D.C., for his relationships, well documented in multiple sources, with Jeffrey Epstein, both before for many years, but also after the latter, after Epstein's conviction. And so finally, the Prime Minister could no longer, the British Prime Minister could no longer maintain the man that he appointed as our ambassador to Washington, D.C., when the relationship became untenable because of the House Oversight Committee's investigations into the Epstein client list, revealing that Lord Peter Mandelson, the former Director of Communications for Prime Minister Tony Blair, a key Blairite, that he was very close to Jeffrey Epstein, to such an extent, in fact, that there were personal birthday messages exchanged, visits to the island, and of course leaked emails that we will come to. The second urgent reason for this stream is on your screens now, and that is the terrible tragedy that is the assassination of MAGA campus campaigner Charlie Kirk, and President Donald Trump's announcement of his death. And that is a terrible tragedy. Our condolences to Charlie Kirk's family and friends, and to the American people in general, and to all those who care about free speech on campus and campaigning for what you believe in through political activism. It is an assassination that will put a chill through all those who stand on principle and value speech. We're going to address both topics as a matter of urgency. Last Tuesday's Warrior Creed live stream that was due to be published last night via the Radical Dispatch for premium subscribers of Radical Media, alongside its write-up that we publish for free via the Dispatch, that will be sent to premium subscribers only, because this live stream and its accompanying written dispatch that we will publish immediately upon this evening, upon the release of this stream, this will replace last Tuesday's scheduled release, and we will still publish last Tuesday's scheduled release, but only to, as I say, our premium members, who we thank very much for supporting majidnawaz.substack.com as premium members of Radical Media. To the urgent matters of the day now. As again, you can see with the Times newspaper headline on your screens, this is the front page of the Times. It is a headline that dominates the Times newspaper at the moment over, in fact, Charlie Kirk's assassination. And that is clearly, as you can see there, Mandelson sacked as US ambassador. Sir Keir Starmer asked Lord Mandelson to be withdrawn over reprehensible Jeffrey Epstein emails. And as usual, we would like to show for our regulars, because we are so grateful for you all sticking with us, here is our piece from last February 2025. But obviously our regulars understand we've been speaking about this Epstein file for a lot longer than merely February. But the piece we published in February was specifically about PT. Hi, PT. If you go back, we said hello to PT back then. And his appointment as Sir Keir Starmer's ambassador to Washington, D.C., the most prestigious ambassadorial role for a Brit, was occupied by somebody who, to put it mildly, was attempting to advise Jeffrey Epstein on avoiding the media onslaught that came after he was convicted for underage trafficking. And that's what the emails reveal, and that's putting it mildly. There's a lot more here, which we published in that February Radical Dispatch. If you go back to it, you can see it's on your screens now. Headlined: Epstein suspect Lord Mandelson confirmed as UK ambassador to the US, dated 12th of February 2025. We've compared that to the headline from today on your screens. That's in the Telegraph, Lord Mandelson has been sacked as Britain's ambassador to the US following damaging new revelations about his friendship with paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. The Times headline we showed you publishes this photograph alongside their front page headline, and that's Mandelson serving as ambassador in Washington, D.C., standing in the White House with President Donald Trump. Should we say polluting the White House with his presence? Well, no longer, because these are the sorts of images that the press is now replete with, and they are images of Epstein in his dressing gown, sitting with of Lord Mandelson in his dressing gown in white, sitting with Jeffrey Epstein there, who has his back turned to us in the blue. Now, this was all obviously coming. We at Radical Media, and our regulars know this, have been forecasting this was coming for many months. I mean, do they ever listen to us? Who knows? We were warning people. We were warning even Keir Starmer, Prime Minister at the time, not to appoint this man as our ambassador to Washington, D.C. We said he would embarrass Starmer, which is the fallout here, that he would embarrass President Trump. Clearly, photographs such as this embarrass the White House and the prestige that White House should occupy in people's minds. And we were telling people that this was coming, including, of course, Petey himself, who, despite the fact that we repeatedly warned him that the shadow knows, decided that his best course of defense was pretend that people didn't know and deny all along the extent of his relationship with Epstein. But of course, it's the lie that you catch them out in. So this is what happened when the House Oversight Committee published some extra messages between Lord Peter Mandelson and Epstein. Mandelson went to the media, as the Times reports here, you can see dated 10th of September, and he basically apologized for the embarrassing messages, but nevertheless failed to resign. And what happened next was Keir Starmer decided to stand by his man. As you can see here, quoted in that Times article from the 10th of September, in his first interview since the revelation, Mandelson, a former Labour cabinet minister, said, "I find them very embarrassing to see and to read, but they were written before he was indicted." Our question there below, this will be this evening's Radical Dispatch for you. That's where we're showing you the screen grab from. We've written there, then why did he visit Epstein after he was indicted? If Mandelson's claim is that all of this was from before he was indicted, that claim doesn't stand up because Mandelson continued to not only visit Epstein after his conviction, but also, as we're going to see from the leaked emails, an attempt to advise Epstein, friendly advice in how to avoid the scandal that later emerged. So despite all of this, Mandelson doubled down. We're going to show you the clip of Mandelson doubling down in media now. And Keir Starmer stood by his man. Here is Mandelson before he is being sacked, doubling down.
I feel a tremendous sense, a profound sense of sympathy for those people, those women who suffered as a result of his behavior and his illegal criminal activities. And secondly, I regret very, very deeply indeed carrying on that association with him for far longer than I should have done. And I regret very much that I fell for his lies. I fell and accepted assurances that he had given me about his indictment, his original criminal case in Florida. Like very many people, I took at face value what he said. With hindsight, with fresh information, many years later, we realized that we had been wrong to believe him. He's a charismatic criminal liar, we now see. And I regret very much indeed, I felt it like an albatross around my neck since his death in 2018 or 19 when it was. I feel a tremendous sense of regret, not only that I met him in the first place, but that I continued the association and I took at face value the lies that he fed me and many others.
So that was Lord Mandelson on Harry Cole's show, basically doubling down, claiming that he was innocent. He knew nothing of this. And of course, it's just not credible. And of course, Prime Minister Starmer stood by Mandelson, as you can see, and we'll don't worry, we'll publish all this in the write-up to this stream for all subscribers free and premium via Radical Media. But here you can see Starmer's reaction on Tuesday, as the Times reports 10th of September. Downing Street defended Mandelson and said that Starmer still had confidence in his ambassador. So Starmer took Mandelson's lead and doubled down, and it's a matter of great embarrassment for the Prime Minister, because then once Mandelson had doubled down, this is what happened next. The Times, again, then this is of course developments overnight. The Times published the following. You can see the headline there: Mandelson kept in contact as Epstein faced child sex charges. And so remember, because the defense that Mandelson put was that all of this contact with Epstein was prior to his indictment and subsequent conviction. Well, the Times reveals that if actually these emails continued, as you can see, they're reading from the Times. In May 2006, police in Florida filed a probable cause affidavit saying Epstein should be charged with 4 counts of unlawful sexual activity with a minor and 1 count of lewd and molestation. One of the alleged victims was 14 years old. Later that month, Mandelson messaged him saying, "I am following you closely and here whenever you need." The next month, he wrote again to say, "Worried that I haven't heard from you. Are you seeing them off and winning?" That's Mandelson asking Epstein if he's seeing off the accusers and winning his case. To read the last line: on the day that Epstein was arrested and charged, Mandelson wrote, "Keep me posted. Where are you next week?" So this is all revealed in the emails, of course, clearly embarrassing Mandelson, who claimed when he doubled down that his relationships with Epstein were only before the indictment. Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of Britain, backing Mandelson on this, refusing to sack him. These emails get revealed, and it's the lie that he was caught out in. And the Times continues here. Mandelson urged Epstein to fight for early release. To continue reading from the Times, you can see they're published only hours ago. Emails between Mandelson and Epstein, which were published on Wednesday by Bloomberg, revealed how his relationship with the disgraced financier continued long after allegations against him first arose in 2006. In an email sent the day before the paedophile financier began an 18-month prison sentence for soliciting sex from a minor, Mandelson wrote to Epstein to say that his, quote, "friends stay with you and love you." To continue the quote, "I think the world of you, and I feel hopeless and furious about what has happened," he wrote in June 2008. "I can still barely understand it. It just could not happen in Britain. You have to be incredibly resilient, fight for early release, and be philosophical about it as much as you can. The whole thing has been years of torture, and now you have to show the world how big a person you are and how strong. Your friends stay with you and love you." This is Lord Mandelson, Tony Blair, former Prime Minister's Director of Communications, current Prime Minister, Labour Prime Minister Keir Starmer's personally appointed British ambassador to Washington, D.C., advising advising Epstein after his arrest, telling him he loves him. So much for his claim on Harry Cole's show that this was all only prior to his indictment. In fact, as Radical Media has published on multiple times, Mandelson visited Epstein, celebrated his birthday with him in Paris after his conviction, and visited him in New York in his mansion. So none of Mandelson's claims stood up to scrutiny. He was caught in the lie. To continue reading from the Times, which is on your screens right about now, ministers insist Mandelson was vetted robustly. So the real question is, if we all knew this was coming and forecasted it was coming, who the bloody hell was vetting Lord Peter Mandelson to appoint him to perhaps one of the most sensitive diplomatic positions on the planet? I think it is, and that's Britain's ambassador to the US. Our representative of our country to the world superpower was a known associate of a paedophile after his conviction. Who did the security vetting? I mean, we're shadow banned and kicked off media shows for far, far less, and that was for questioning COVID mandates. No one's heard from us since in the mainstream, and yet here's a man photographed on Epstein's Island, appointed as our ambassador to Washington, D.C. by the Labour Prime Minister Keir Starmer. It is abysmal. It is appalling, because this is how embarrassing it is for the official high office of our embassy in Washington, D.C. Here is their verified account, the British Embassy in Washington, D.C., announcing Peter Mandelson's appointment. Peter Mandelson is the new British ambassador to the United States. Learn more about his incredible life and why he's so energized by this new role. And then that official verified embassy account posted the following cringeworthy video of Peter Mandelson celebrating his appointment and his having attained diplomatic immunity, just as we were announcing that he was a key Epstein suspect.
Peter Mandelson, and I'm proud to serve as His Majesty's British Ambassador to the United States of America. It's great to be up and running in the US, a country in which I have spent so much of my adult life and admire so much. I'm speaking to you from the Ambassador's residence, a building that symbolizes decades of friendship, hosting countless presidents, prime ministers, politicians, royalty, and many ordinary American citizens. I'm crystal clear. The UK has no closer ally than America, and no one does more than our two countries together in intelligence sharing and defense, with our jet fighters, our naval missions, and Army Special Forces operating together in the world. Our deep economic and cultural ties are unrivaled. Looking ahead, President Trump's administration is shaping up to be one of the most consequential periods in modern America. I feel energized by the opportunities opening up to work more closely together in tackling threats to our security and collaborating together in exploiting new technologies to boost jobs and higher living standards. I was born in London to a middle-class family. My father was from Jewish parents whose own father helped found a local synagogue. My loving mother was always there for my older brother and me, and my father worked hard to send us both to university. At Oxford University, my passion for learning and to drive change was ignited. I've served as a legislator, elected first to the House of Commons, and more recently in Parliament's upper house. I've also helped found and grow a successful international business, promoting market access and investment around the world. I'm ready to bring my policy knowledge, entrepreneurial spirit, and experience at the highest levels of government to this role. As Northern Ireland Secretary, I was responsible for implementing the Good Friday Agreement, which finally brought peace to that troubled part of the United Kingdom. Today, the UK government's #1 priority is economic growth. More than 1 million Britons work for US companies and 1 million Americans work for UK firms. The UK and the US already have $1.5 trillion invested in each other, and I'm confident we can go even further and faster together. I'm hugely grateful for the warm welcome since our arrival. Ronaldo, with whom I have lived happily for 28 years, and I are so happy to be here making our home in the great United States of America. We look forward to exploring this magnificent country, from coast to coast, from state to state, and meeting many new friends along the way.
I mean, aside from the creepy music, it's just terribly embarrassing that that man was occupying the most prestigious ambassadorial role for the United Kingdom, while it was obvious, as we reported at the time he was appointed, that this was all going to come out. You can see it there. There's a photograph of him blowing Epstein's candles out on his birthday. That was after Epstein's conviction. It was obvious. These were all unsealed documents from unsealed court documents from US trials on both civil and criminal trials on the Epstein case. These are all official documents that have been released by the US government. It was finally the Congressional Oversight Committee that continuing to release such documents that forced Keir Starmer's hand. But do not forget, it was Starmer himself who appointed Mandelson, despite the fact that all of this was known. And perhaps this is the reason why. The Times reported on the 11th of February, 2025, the following from Mandelson. We're going to read to you a quote from the Times. We will republish this quote in the written dispatch accompanying this stream via Radical Media. But take a look at this, and it could perhaps point to exactly what Keir Starmer was playing at when he appointed Mandelson to Washington, D.C. The Times reports here, we'll read it for you, the first political appointee to the U.S. ambassador role in 50 years. In other words, most other appointments were career civil service appointments. This is the first time a politician appoints their mate as the ambassador. It's called a political appointment. Most U.S. ambassadorial appointments are political. In other words, the president directly appoints them. But in the UK, though it's not prohibited to make political appointments, usually it's the career civil servants who are appointed especially to such senior roles. This was the first time under Keir Starmer that a political appointment was made for our ambassador to Washington, D.C., and it was decided to be a known suspect in the Epstein paedophilia case. But the Times continues, we'll read it for you. The first political appointee to the US ambassador role in 50 years, Mandelson is also tasked with helping the UK to avoid swinging tariffs promised by Trump. I believe that given the relationship that we have, here's the key part. Read this. This is a Mandelson quote. I believe that given the relationship that we have, look at the bold, we can always make our views known. Best, by the way, directly and privately. We have a strong relationship that enables us to influence the president and his policies where necessary. You see that? What did Mandelson mean back in February when he said we have a strong relationship and publicly and privately we can influence Trump? Mandelson, as we reported back in February, was a key suspect involved in the known global Mossad influence operation via honey traps that was known as the Epstein case. So what did he mean precisely that we publicly and privately have a strong relationship that we can use to influence Trump? Why exactly was Mandelson appointed? And if you ponder that question, you end up with the answer that points to exactly why he was also eventually dismissed, because the trap was sprung. Now, we warned all of this back in February when we appeared on GB News for the Neil Oliver show. And by way of a refreshment, here's exactly what we said. And some of you may remember, it's just as Elon Musk, also somebody who the House Oversight Committee has revealed has had very, very tough questions to ask on the Epstein case. That Elon Musk, who interfered against Nigel Farage, the Trump ally, in Britain, and instead tried to split the Farage Reform Party vote by supporting the faction that has turned very viciously anti-Muslim in the UK, led by none other than Ben Habib and Rupert Lowe. That Musk, who intervened in the domestic British political scene against Nigel Farage to support them, that same Elon Musk, when he did that, resurrecting the grooming gangs case, we were pointing at the time that this was all to throw you off scent from what's really going on here. And that is the global compromat operation used to further the perma war by globalists. And that really, if you want to follow the grooming gangs trail, you have to follow up the cover up inside the Labour Party, because the more senior you go, once you go beyond that Pakistani street rape grooming gang street level and end up on the upper levels, you end up with senior prime ministers, politicians, members of the House of Lords, presidents, ambassadors, all entrapped in the real global pedophile ring, and that is the Epstein scandal. And this, remember, it's the cover-up that catches them out. It's the lie that catches them out. And you just follow the lies until you find out really what's going on. This is what we said on GB News back in February.
Are only one element, and that's why we immediately said this was a cover-up. Don't just talk about the street-level gangs. They are organized gangs who have their connections in the police, the social services, the local councils, all the way up through the national political hierarchy of the Labour Party. Now, since we said that, it all came out. We were pointing at the time to Lord Ahmed's conviction for underage sex abuse. He was a Labour peer from Rotherham, which was a trigger case for these grooming gangs. Now, that's from right at the top. We were also pointing to Keir Starmer's decision to appoint Peter Mandelson as his ambassador to the US. Mandelson, the same guy, without a doubt, on record in released court documents, is proven to have visited Epstein's Island, to have gone to Epstein's mansion in New York, and to have gone to Paris for his birthday. Close friend of Epstein, more so than even Prince Andrew, right? There's more information on Mandelson's relationship with him than there even was with Prince Andrew. So why was Starmer Look at how Prince Andrew was treated. Why was Starmer rewarding Mandelson with the most diplomatic appointment on the planet for Britain, which is to America, right? Granting him diplomatic immunity is what it was about. So that's how far up the rock goes, right to the top with Lord Ahmed and Peter Mandelson. By the way, both Labour and both from the Blair era. Mandelson was Blair's Dark Prince, who had all the dirt on all of the politicians, and that's how he kept them in line. It's why he was called the Dark Prince. Where do you think he got that dirt from, if not Epstein, right? So that's what was going on. Since we said all of that, what got revealed? Well, there was a Labour former defence minister who got arrested in a sting for attempting to solicit sexual favours from an underage boy. And then 2 police officers got arrested in Rotherham for being involved as well. This all came out after the scandal was recently resurrected by Musk, proving that this is bigger, as you just said, Neil, than the mere street gang level. And it's not just Pakistanis. This thing is a rock that goes through the system and is actually what people used to refer to as a conspiracy theory. It's the global VIP paedophile ring that used to be run by Epstein, which is an acknowledged Mossad operation.
Oh dear. Anyway, that's all going to come out. You don't have to believe us, but it will, frankly. That's the state of play with that one. We will publish all of these receipts with the free write-up known as the Radical Dispatch later this evening. But we're going to move to the second urgent reason why we've decided to stream off schedule, and that is the terrible, terrible tragedy of the US campus assassination of MAGA campaigner Charlie Kirk. As you can see on the screens, Donald Trump saying the great and even legendary Charlie Kirk is dead. No one understood or had the heart of the youth in the United States of America better than Charlie. He was loved and admired by all, especially me, and now he's no longer with us. Melania and my sympathies go out to his beautiful wife, Erica, and family. Charlie, we love you. It is a terrible tragedy. First of all, our condolences go to the family and friends. It is incredibly important to understand that at times such as these, this is not the time to start making excuses for the killer of Charlie Kirk or the killers of Charlie Kirk by saying, well, you know, he hated Muslims, he perhaps defended Netanyahu's actions in Gaza. None of that justifies cold-hearted, cold-blooded murder on campus. Nevertheless, what we're going to show you also is that even those assumptions about Mr. Kirk may well be out of date. Now, the killing of Charlie Kirk has led to a manhunt. Let's start with that. As the Times reports, there's a manhunt underway because twice it appears that patsies and decoys were arrested by the FBI, only twice to then be let go after a couple of hours or a few hours because they clearly ended up not being the shooters or the assassins. And so the real suspect or the real killer is at large, and it remains to be seen exactly who this is. But as of reporting, at time of reporting, you can see there from the Times, a manhunt is still underway for the killer of Charlie Kirk, the influential right-wing podcaster and political activist who played a key role in President Trump's election. Although 2 people were arrested, they have been released, meaning the murderer is still at large more than 12 hours after the shooting. The first man that was arrested immediately on the scene, an elderly, older white man, appears to have caused some form of commotion, and the, of course, media focused on him. There is a viral image of him going around being arrested, but none of that should be used to imply he's the actual assassin. He was released. The second one, there's less detail on, but he was or she were also released. So as of time of streaming this, the actual killer remains at large, and our reaction to that is as follows. That's on your screens now. The longer the shooter remains at large, the more this begins to look like an organized operation designed specifically to sow ideological and racial chaos in the US. That is our view on it. And it is important to understand that the fact that this is appearing to be an organized operation isn't just because that in the video where Charlie Kirk is tragically shot, and we apologize for providing some graphic detail, a warning to those who perhaps don't want to hear this, but he was shot with incredible accuracy in the neck. And that is very clear on video. And he was shot in a very precise location, and you can see the splatter come out from the other side. It was clear in the video he had very little chance of surviving. Of course, he later succumbed to his injuries, but the video itself would point to either an incredibly well-trained shooter or indeed a professional sniper. And at this stage, it wouldn't really be appropriate for any legal investigative effort to rule out either one of those, because what is clear from the video is that he was shot from some are currently speculating or putting out reports of from 200 yards away. But either way, on a crowded stage as he was, with obstacles all around him as there were, and with thousands of people moving about him as there were in the event, it is quite an achievement to be able to make the mark from that distance under those circumstances. It was either a trained shooter or a professional sniper, but of course, none of that could be the case. We need to see more evidence. However, in the meanwhile, Charlie Kirk himself had bemoaned the rise of assassination culture in some of his posts. You can see here a recent one that's from his own page. Charlie Kirk saying, assassination culture is spreading on the left. 48% of liberals say it would be at least somewhat justified to murder Elon Musk. 55% said the same about Donald Trump. In California, activists are naming ballot measures after Luigi Mangione. The left is being whipped into a violent frenzy. Any setback, whether losing an election or losing a court case, justifies a maximally violent response. This is the natural outgrowth of left-wing protest culture, tolerating violence and mayhem for years on end. The cowardice of local prosecutors and school officials have turned the left into a ticking time bomb. And then Charlie, alongside that post, posted this graphic from Fox News, and it measures opinions on assassinations. We will publish all of this in the write-up accompanying this Urgent Warrior Creed live stream this evening, and you can click hyperlink through that graphic to its original news source in the Radical Dispatch. The important thing to remember here is, though Charlie in his own post pointed out only to the left, radicalized far left or hard left, our own observation is as follows, which is on your screens now. We've issued this in the sense as a warning. Nefarious perma-war forces, and that's those forces that believe in permanent war. So nefarious perma-war forces are trying to radicalize you all. It will be very difficult for you to resist this, but resist it you must. The future of our civilization depends on you doing so. We will help in any way we can. Solidarity. What do we mean by radicalize you all? Well, because it is very clear, as we've said here, it does appear to have been a sniper shot. The line of inquiry must be investigated. But it is very clear that there is more to this story than one was initially led to believe, as some crazed lone shooter from the crowd, because usually a lone shooter from the crowd is easy to spot and detain immediately because they're in the middle of the crowd. By definition, it's harder for them to get out of the crowd. And as they run, people start grabbing onto them and attempting to subdue them. However, there doesn't appear to be any lone shooter from the crowd context here. It does appear that the shooter is still on the run, and that does point to some form of organized planning and forethought. In other words, an operation. Now, if it is an operation, one has to ask, what was it seeking to achieve? Well, the immediate thing it achieves is the chaos and the division, both racial and religious in the US, and political and ideological, that are the consequence of such a killing. And partly the chaos itself would be a desired outcome of this assassination, because it would serve to prevent something that perhaps many globalists seek to avoid, and that is a successful Trump second term, because Trump has been bringing an end to perma war. And the more you can destabilize Trump's term in office, the harder it becomes for Trump to carry the people with him in ending the perma war context. Now, speculation online has erupted since Mr. Kirk's assassination, and it would behoove us in this urgent stream and instant reaction to show you some of the speculation and exactly what's going on by key MAGA influencers, because of course, after all, do remember this was a MAGA killing, and the people we're showing you who are responding are Charlie Kirk's known friends and associates and political supporters. And so it's important to understand how they're interpreting this event. And here is one, and that is Candace Owens, who's a known friend of Charlie Kirk. asking the following question today: who called the hit on Charlie? We need answers. And here indeed is another MAGA influencer, Ian Carroll, asking a similar question. Yesterday was a turning point for Israel-US relations. Less than 24 hours and the internet already figured out who the most likely culprit was. He was their friend. He basically dedicated his life to them, and they murdered him in front of his family. Israel just shot themselves. Dave Smith then responds, what evidence is there that Israel did this? Of course, at this stage, it's important to mention that these are what we are showing you or showcasing are the immediate reactions of certain key voices in the MAGA base. Candace and Ian Carroll on one end, and Dave Smith there, who is also a critic of Netanyahu's war in Gaza, asking Ian Carroll for evidence, providing a bit of pushback on that. But some of what's being posted with regards to that evidence is as follows. Again, this is all out there that is being put out there by key MAGA influences. And we are caveating this with, again, by a warning there on your screens before we show you the video. Ignore the hard left and Islamist celebration of Kirk's death. Do not be baited into supporting them or raging against them. This is all being pushed by the algorithm to radicalize you because your radicalization serves the ongoing perma war. Like so many populist right-wing commentators, Charlie Kirk had a public change of heart on Gaza. Sadly, he was killed shortly thereafter. And this is his public change of heart we're about to show you. And this is what some of these key MAGA voices are asking questions around.
The 25 text messages from people I know, like friends who are pro-Israel, like, I'm so sad that you've left us. I'm so sad let's debate it. You know, many Jewish advocates saying, let me come on your show and we'll debate. There's nothing to debate. I'm on Israel's side. Just stop. Me observing
I totally agree
that you're losing the propaganda war and that this has gone on for about 2 years now. And look, I mean, I pulled the stats, support for Israel's military action in Gaza by party ID. GOP in June of 2024, 76%. Now 71, so they lost 5%. Dems in October of 2023, 36%. Now it's at 8. Independents, October 2023, it was 47%. Now it's 25%. You go under 35, you have almost zero support across the United States, your closest ally. I see what's happening, and it's my job to comment honestly on it. But I am sick of being lectured on, like, you have to see it exactly as we see it and support everything, or you're against us.
So this is so important, Megan. And again, I don't want, you cannot say everyone in the pro-Israel, and I don't say it, acts that way. But I got texts about you, Megan, saying, why is Megan like doing the bidding of Hamas? I was like, what are you talking about? Megan's the best. Like, what? Like, she's amazing. And I said, why are you texting me about Megan? And I at that point, and so this is what they don't understand. You and I, Megan, and Tucker is in the same category, and they've tried to go after Tucker. Yeah. Is that the more you attack our moral character, the more we're going to double down in a direction, because 100%. Screw you, I don't do it that way, okay? Right. Like tell me I'm wrong. Cool. Tell me if I got my facts wrong. By the way, on the Epstein thing, Naftali Bennett says he wasn't an Epstein agent. We have to be pursuers of truth. They've denied it. Fine. Let's keep digging. Okay, fine. But the thing that I think is being lost is, like, on some part of the population, you can scold them into silence, right? Mm-hmm. But if I have any deviation of a purity test, any deviation whatsoever, such as hosting a focus group, right, Megan, with a bunch of our students that went viral, having Dave Smith or Tucker at my event, it is all of a sudden, oh, Charlie is he's no longer with us and all that. I said, wait a second, what do you mean? What does with us mean exactly, right? Mm-hmm. I'm an American, okay? Like, I represent this country, and I don't even understand that paradigm. But Megan, I think you would agree with this. I want to make sure we really zero in on this. Personality types like you, myself, and Tucker, the more that you guys privately and publicly call our character into question, which is not isolated, right? Megan, it would be one thing if it was one text or two text. It is dozens of texts. Yes. Then we start to say, hold the boat here. And to be fair, some of my really good Jewish friends are like, that's not all of us, it's all, but these are leaders too, though, right? These are stakeholders, right? And so, look, I'm afraid because, again, I want civilization to win. I want the West to win. I don't want the Islamo-fascist barbarians to storm the gates of Jerusalem. I want the holy sites protected. I believe in the Holy Land. I love that Jesus walked on water there and rose from the dead and preached in the Mount of Beatitudes. Like, I feel the connection to Israel. But at the same time, simultaneously, when the hostile reaction is that now Meghan and Charlie are enemies,
right?
Boy, I'll tell you, like you're not gonna, I wouldn't say lose, but you will weaken and just basically deflate two of your strongest advocates if that continues.
Now, that was Charlie Kirk's, well, the clip demonstrates Charlie Kirk's evolution on his views on the Gaza war. Up until then, he had been a staunch supporter of, as you saw in the clip, saying it himself along with Megyn Kelly, a staunch supporter of Netanyahu's war and a staunch supporter of Israel. But clearly on the former, the Netanyahu's war aspect, Charlie Kirk was reconsidering. And some of the MAGA base, such as what we've shown you, Ian Carroll, Candace Owens, the more significant names, are beginning to make that connection and ask further questions, considering the shooter is still on the run. On the British side of it, you have a similar reflection. Here is a well-known social media commentator, David Curtin, asking a similar question. Charlie Kirk was beginning to question who is behind cultural Marxism, anti-white racism, and the degeneration of the West. He was murdered, but millions will continue to seek and speak the truth. R.I.P. Charlie. Dave Curtin posted the following video alongside that tweet, which we're going to show you now. This is Charlie Kirk specifically naming the Anti-Defamation League, or the ADL, being behind backing BLM in the US, and saying that he was not going to be afraid to say it as it is.
Jewish communities have been pushing the exact kind of hatred against whites that they claim to want people to stop using against them. Now, I don't like generalizations. Not every Jewish person believes that. But it is true the Anti-Defamation League was part and parcel with Black Lives Matter. It is true that some of the largest financiers of left-wing anti-white causes have been Jewish Americans. They went all in on woke, and it wasn't just ADL. It was some of the top Jewish organizations in the country that have done that. In fact, we have seen this with the recent retreat of Jewish donations that are no longer going to be administered to colleges, right? Mark Rowan, Leon Copperman. Can we get that full list? It's very powerful. The part of the, so that's totally true. And by the way, Tucker Carlson reinforces this. So I'm going to kind of, it was quite a day on the internet. Tucker Carlson was interviewing Candace Owens. We have Candace Owens coming up next hour. And Tucker Carlson mentions that Jewish Americans have primarily been financing cultural Marxist ideas. We said this, by the way, last week, and people came after us.
We were on top of it.
We actually said it in a different way. We said, I'm glad that Jewish Americans are reconsidering their financing of cultural Marxism. And people misunderstood it intentionally and slandered us as being anti-Semites. But listen to this. Tucker Carlson is completely correct by saying this, that the philosophical foundation of anti-whiteness has been largely financed by Jewish donors in the country.
Again, at this stage, we want to make it very clear that the investigations are ongoing. What we're parading for you here are social media reactions. That clip was posted by Dave Curtin, who, again, will show you there, accompanied it with the following. Charlie Kirk was beginning to question who is behind cultural Marxism. And the earlier one, that was something that was a commentary posted by MAGA-based users online, but of course, a reflection on people such as Ian Carroll and Candace Owen asking who, quote, who called the hit on Charlie. And this is all the immediate reaction that online. The speculation is that this was a hit, and the evidence from our perspective, we will say, does appear to be the case that this was not just a crazed lone gunman or woman from the crowd, but this does appear to have been a sharpshooter positioned professionally away from his victim or her victim. And that shooter seems to still be on the run, with 2 false arrests by the FBI and suspects having been released under their belt. So, of course, the speculation is, in that context, quite natural considering the circumstances. And people are, of course, grieving and very upset that their friend Charlie Kirk has passed. And Candace Owens was known to Charlie and was, again, frequently in conversation with him. We're also going to show one more video which has been posted as a reaction. Again, these are all immediate online reactions for you to consider, and have a look at this one.
Interestingly, which is, okay, Charlie, we've pushed back against the media on COVID, on lockdowns, on Ukraine, on the border, on, so like, maybe we should also ask a question. Is the media totally presenting the truth when it comes to Israel? Just a question, that maybe we shouldn't believe everything the media says, because I know I've been conditioned to ask a lot more critical questions over the last couple of years. So, Ben, some people would accuse Israel of wanting to ethnically cleanse.
These are the questions that are going to be asked online. They're already going viral, these sorts of reactions. It's already got to a point where it's frankly burying our heads in the sands not to be reporting this all to you, especially when influencers such as on the US side, Candace Owens and Ian Carroll, are making the remarks that they are. And these are the sorts of clips that are going around. And so, of course, we show them to you for your own contextualization of this. It is true that Charlie Kirk spent a long time criticizing Islam, American Muslims, the place of Islam in the West, and indeed supporting Netanyahu's war. But it's also true that towards the latter period of the last few months, in particular, he started saying things like you just saw there on the video. And there is some speculation online that he began predicting his own assassination in this context. And so that is what the online chatter is at the moment. Though, of course, our primary and main concern is that this event is not used to radicalize everybody in opposite directions, sowing the seeds of chaos. And that is pitting people against each other ideologically, racially, and religiously, because it's that the globalists would desire. And that is how they would weaponize this tragedy in order to further their aims of perma war. Because, of course, if you are able to divide and conquer, you're able to clamp down on the civil chaos that ensues by increasing the power of your surveillance state. And once your surveillance state is all powerful, you can continue perma wars abroad without opposition. That's the globalist game plan. So, of course, regardless of who was behind Charlie Kirk's assassination, the desire to weaponize it in the direction we've just described will be ever present. And our advice to everybody is to, no matter how hard it would be, to avoid the attempted weaponization of this agenda. And one of the key points in avoiding that is remembering that the cycle of violence never ends. It only ever leads to further and further violence. On that note, we thank you all for tuning into this urgent Warrior Creed live stream. As we explained at the beginning, this live stream and its accompanying Radical Dispatch free write-up will be published this evening and replace last Tuesday's one. We will separately send out last Tuesday's one only to our premium subscribers, but this one will be the one that we will publish as the regular Radical Dispatch, and we hope to be able to publish it this evening. Thank you all for your patience. You've been listening to the Warrior Creed live stream with me, the Radical Majid Nawaz.
You are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge. Witness the strength. Street knowledge. Street knowledge.
Terrorize the jam like troops in Pakistan.
Street knowledge. Street knowledge. Quick service announcement brought to you in part by Warriors.